Hey horror fans, welcome back to Room 237, coming at you with another Christmas review. This might be my last Christmas review, because I got a lot of other stuff, like, for early Christmas that I want to watch. Like you saw already in my Son of Frankenstein video, got a ton of stuff, even aside from that. But, like my last Christmas review, Nightmare Before Christmas, this was another one that because of COPPA and I don't want to get screwed up. But it is one of my favorite Christmas movies, one of my favorite movies of all time. Absolutely loved it since I was a kid, and I had to do it for Ho Ho Horror. That is Gremlins. I didn't grow up with it as much as, say, Ghostbusters or Beetlejuice or even Nightmare Before Christmas. I did enjoy it as a kid, but I watched it a little bit more as an adult. And it's one of my favorite movies of the 80s for sure. I mean, it sort of what was going on in the 80s, taking like the B movies of the 50s with small town, some sort of threat overtaking a small town. That was this. And this is just such a classic. And I still think Gizmo the Mogwai is cuter, and I want one more than a Baby Yoda. That's just me. You know, directed by Joe Dante. Great Joe Dante. He really became known after this for doing like real cartoony, like live action, but like cartoony, animatronic kind of horror related films. You know, I see what else Joe Dante has done. For some reason, I can't remember on top of my head. Okay, he did The Howling. I forgot about that. He did Small Soldiers, which I loved as a kid. I was in the first grade when that came out, and I loved it. But yeah, Gremlins is my favorite by him. I do like Gremlins more than The Howling. Came out it was actually a summer film. June 8th, 1984. So, came out around the same time as Friday the 13th, Part 4. But Corey Feldman looks younger in this one. Well, I think that's the youngest role I could think of with Corey Feldman. Executive producers, Steven Spielberg. I mean, a bunch of stuff in the 80s. I mean, this, The Goonies, Poltergeist, movies he was involved with but didn't direct, yet he gets a lot of credit for. And written by Chris Columbus, who also did Goonies. I want to see who did the of animatronics. Excuse me. Development, cast. Of course, everyone knows Zach Galligan as Billy. Special effects. Okay. Some people forget that Howie Mandel did the voice of Gizmo. But the if you remember, of course, there's also Frank Welker. He did the voice of Stripe. But Michael Winslow, the black guy from the Police Academy movies who does all the sound effects, he voiced one of the green bad ones. I've never seen Gremlins 2. I know it's kind of a parody of Gremlins itself. But, you know, oh, Jerry Goldsmith did the score. I loved the score, especially the theme. There's a slot machine. My girlfriend was telling me about it because she loves casinos. In Vegas, when you hit good money, it does that, you know, I love that. Okay, so what is the story of Gremlins? I mean, like Nightmare Before Christmas. It's almost everyone knows it. This teenager, Billy, his dad is sort of the struggling salesman. He's trying to sell this old Asian guy something. He doesn't want it, but he notices, but we don't see, a Mogwai. So he gets it for his son Billy, and he comes home and he gives it to him. And it is the cutest little strange creature, this gremlin, ever. I mean, with how small, like, he always has to be carried. Like, Baby Yoda is basically Gizmo. You got huge ears, just as cute. Well, I think Gizmo's cuter, and I would rather have one. But they come with rules. You can't be in bright light. Bright light, sunlight will kill them. You can't get them wet, and you can't feed them after midnight. Which, the last one, I know people have talked about for years. Like, what is before and after midnight? And, Billy just starts taking Gizmo around with him. And then by accident or by scheme, they turn into these vicious green bastards who are just hell-bent on destruction and mayhem. The first one, of course, the leader has this white mohawk. They call him Stripe. So, I mean, like, Corey Feldman accidentally spills water on him. That's how they multiply. Feed them after midnight. That's when they transform. And it really is like we see this whole town just being taken over by these gremlins. These green gremlins. And it all takes place around Christmas. It does have a nice Christmassy aesthetic. I want to get the name of the guy. I think he just passed away recently as well. Yep, he just passed away almost a year ago, January 30th. Dick Miller. Oh, he was in A Bucket of Blood. I have that movie. He was in Small Soldiers. You've seen Dick Miller. He's sort of this angry guy. He's sitting there watching TV with his wife. And the gremlins are up on his roof with the antenna, just friggin' with it. And then all of a sudden, they just take his tractor and they just drive it through his living room. And and we just see them raising hell across the town. And I mean, they even want to kill. You get like the part with the science teacher, the part with Billy's mom, which the part with Billy's mom is pretty brutal. You see what happens when you put them in a microwave? Great practical effects. That's another thing I will forever praise any movie. Like, they have animatronic creatures, but whenever there's like a gore or blood or some sort of effect, they go all practical. Like when the one's in the microwave and it just explodes. there's a part when they're all in a bar. And this is 1980s PG. You had them in a bar. You had them all getting drunk. You had one dressed like a prostitute. You had one in a trench coat that was supposed to be like a flasher. You had them with cigarettes in their mouth. People weren't pussies back then. And, you know, probably my favorite part is when they go to the movie theater and they play Snow White. And, of course, it just shows them all being, like, really hyper and being crazy. And somehow they get the film reels to work. But you see the, hi-ho, and you just see one of them kind of go. And because I love the part when they're all going like this and they're singing the hi-ho song. And then it's really cute when you hear Gizmo singing it. You know, so, I mean, it's sort of like Beetlejuice, but where, you know, you have the comedy, you have the family elements, or maybe not Beetlejuice, Ghostbusters. But then, you know, you got the elements for adults, you got the horror elements. And I have always loved this movie so much. Aside from, like, straightforward horror films, like, my favorite movies of the 80s would go, like, Beetlejuice. It would go Ghostbusters, Beetlejuice, Gremlins, The Princess Bride, and, like, aside from ones that are straightforward horror, or even, you know, like, horror comedy, like Reanimator, and Evil Dead, and stuff like that. Just, this is another one, like Beetlejuice and Ghostbusters. I loved it as a kid, and I love it as an adult. Of course, it does have one of the most terrifying Christmas stories in it, because Billy's love interest, played by Phoebe Cates of Fast Times at Ridgemont High, she's kind of a Scrooge humbug. She's not Christmassy at all. And eventually she tells Billy why. And the way she tells it is really long, but it's really depressing when you think about it. And, like, you kind of think there's going to be a humorous side to it because of this movie's twisted sense of humor. But no, there's no joke. There's no humor in her story. It's just horrific and sad. Her dad dressed up as Santa to, you know, for her as a kid, but then he went missing. He never came home. Weeks later, you know, they started noticing this rotten smell, and there's a fire in the chimney. Turns out he tried to go down the chimney and snapped his neck, and he got stuck. So, and whenever they had a fire, they were cooking him, and he was rotten up there for weeks. And it just ends with, and that's why I hate Christmas. I do know in Gremlins 2, she has a story for why she hates another holiday, but Zach Galligan's like, we don't have time for this. I do hate the ending when the old man comes to take Gizmo away, because I wanted Billy to keep Gizmo. It's like, no, that sucks. I used to get really choked up over that when I was a kid, because I wouldn't want my Mogwai taken away. But, you know, Gizmo is like an over-the-top, cute character. I mean, I always love, like, the facial expressions, like how they have him driving like a Barbie car, trying to save the day. Or when the green ones are picking on him when they got him stuck to the dartboard. Gremlins is such a fun, like, I guess family, like a family, or 80s PG, I should say, you know, horror, comedy, Yeah, also Christmas movie. It's definitely a Christmas movie. Gremlins, one of my favorite Christmas movies. One of my favorite top 80s movies, like top 5, apart from straightforward horror. One of my favorite movies of all time. One of the defining films for my childhood. I love Gremlins. But this will probably be my last Christmas review. Next time you'll see me in this hat talking Christmas would be when I do my Christmas haul, probably sometime next weekend. But anyway, so until then, thank you all for sticking with me through all these Christmas reviews. I am Christmased out, but I got a ton of classic horror stuff to watch now. So stay tuned until the 1st, and we'll see if FTC deletes me. But anyway, thank you for watching.